this was important for, this specific project, but we could be doing 3 or 4, however many studies if we had the bandwidth. And yeah, I feel like a lot of my role has been in just establishing this function up until this point. That's taken a while. We didn't have somebody focused in this role. We didn't have a web strategist person. Yeah, I think so much of that happens in person. So I miss it for sure. I miss that aspect of my job. You're just kind of pulled into that because it's like, this is the important launch. This is the, whatever it is, that initiative, next product, next architecture. The company really rallies around that. And yeah, like growth is very important for us.
Good day to everyone. This is InnMind channel with the best first-hand information for startup founders and tech entrepreneurs. And today we have amazing guests in our channel, Kavita Singh, who is a website experience manager and web design manager in the greatest company, Nvidia, who is the biggest market player in gaming, in video production, and etc. Hi, Kavita.
Hi, how's it going?
Awesome, thank you. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Awesome day.
Kavita, your title sounds amazing, and what you're doing sounds like a really fun thing, which is actually necessary for every second or every first digital startup, meaning you are doing UX, you are doing user journey, and etc. Can you please explain a little bit more what is your major responsibility in NVIDIA and how this role was created, which is not very typical title?
Yes, definitely not a very typical title. And I would say that I've had the wonderful opportunity to be a part of the digital team for about 4 years and kind of growing my role there over time. A lot of what I work on is just very important strategic website projects for Nvidia.com. So I kind of am, the user experience person and increasingly the web strategy person. So many different, parts of the site. You guys may know Nvidia as a gaming company, increasingly more and more an AI partnered company. We help enable many different workloads for all sorts of different business purposes, and that area of our business is really growing. So we're kind of, our main challenge really as a company is to tell our story and kind of appeal to so many different people. And a lot of my specialization over time has become information architecture. So basically, how do you take lots of complicated amounts of information and present it on the website easily and effectively? And no matter how small or big your website is, it needs to be organized. And a lot of times it's your major tool to connect with customers and to keep the customers that you have. So being able to make sure that that information is easily findable is super important. And my department was kind of put together to make our website much more of a strategic business asset, in a sense, almost like a product. So I would consider myself, someone who serves that product and ensures that we have a great website experience. And more and more, that work becomes more strategic and more tied to how do we achieve X business goal through user experience design, information architecture, content strategy, a lot of these kinds of fields. And I am a little bit of a generalist in that sense. So that's a little bit about my day-to-day and the kind of goals I'm trying to solve at work.
And how many people are there in your team helping you actually to understand this user journey? Because usually the problem is that when you make the website, you kind of become blind and you can't be on shoes of your customers anymore.
Yes, it's very true. We're a small team, a growing team, but quite small. I would say our department itself, which covers the entire scope of digital across web, email, social. We kind of serve the entire company, and we have sort of a big international team, somewhere between 50 and 100 people. The people on my team is less than 10. We focus on the website experience, optimizing, search engine optimization, and I am one person on that team. So a lot of what I focus on is, yes, like increasingly the journey, the overall structure of the website, how people are able to find things. And I partner with a lot of the other folks in my team to make sure that all of our expertise is leveraged, because yeah, like there's a lot of tie-in between what are the labels that we use on the site versus what is the search data for how someone is looking for it. And then how do you take the stuff that we create and continue to test and optimize that? So we all kind of, our team kind of gels together in these different functions to be able to say, like, all right, how do we create something, do the research. And you mentioned something about, not, kind of losing sight of who your customer is, not knowing, what their, pain points and concerns are. And that's where a lot of testing and research comes in. We're doing a lot more, just active testing with users, interviews, user testing. And that's like, no matter what size company you are, that's absolutely critical to be able to get that feedback and say, like, me as the creator or the designer, I have my own, blinders on, and I need to be able to look at this more objectively and say, like, okay, if this is a fresh person or a person who's in a, a gamer or an IT person or whoever's coming to our website, they're looking at it from their perspective, and we need to make things as easy and seamless as possible for them. So that feedback loop is very, very important for being able to continue to do that at a high quality.
And does it have something to do with the term growth hacking?
Yes, the term growth hacking is kind of interesting to me, because I think I used to actually work at a few different startups before I started at Nvidia, which is a much bigger company. And a lot of what our focus is on as a big company, because we're in such an established, in many ways, we are a market leader in many of the fields that we do business in. So when we think about growth, a lot of times it's in those areas of business that we're very new in. Like, people might not know us as being a big player in, like, the healthcare industry, for example. That is, relatively new for us as a company. But we have a lot of established areas of expertise where we're able to take that understanding and be able to say, like, this is how we approached it for such and such industry, and here's how we do, great work in this new industry. And, as people who work on the website arm of that, it's very much just, how do you find that holistic picture and be able to attract new users to your website? And yeah, like, growth is very important for us to be able to get those new people who we don't know as well, and be able to say, like, how do I resonate with you, and what message is best for you to kind of help you to understand what our offerings are.
And what did change for you when you switched from the startup role in working to the big corporation like Nvidia?
Yes, I would say my experience has been a bit exceptional, because Nvidia is not your typical big company, and that was the #1 thing. I mean, I grew up, in Silicon Valley. This was my, my childhood home, everything like that. I kind of grew up, surrounded by this world of startups, people in my family and such. And I always expected, like, I would never work at a big company. That's not where I want to be. I want to start my own business someday. Like, I studied entrepreneurship in school. Like, I was, a founding member, even as a student, for, all sorts of different educational programs and organizations. I was like, I'm never going big. Like, that's just no way. And somehow I was a writer at some of my previous jobs, and ended up taking a job at Nvidia, and it was very, very similar. I mean, that mindset that we have in startups about, how do I continually try to solve this equation of, resonating with the customer and doing it with absolute, resource constrained situation. It felt very familiar to me, because at Nvidia, we're a very lean organization. We only hire who we really need to hire, and every person on the team is wearing, so many hats, juggling so many things. And the reason for that is we really hire and keep people. There's a lot of kind of, I guess, reputation in the tech company for, hiring a bunch of people and then having the, 10% layoff, the cuts, whatever. And our company does not have that philosophy at all. We're always running, like, if there's some job that's, you know, a rec that's going to be open. There's already 3 people kind of doing that job on the side, and we need to, you know, get their time off that to, you know, get a new person. So everyone is also, you know, very much at capacity, very much juggling things, and very much, you know, connected to the whole business. Like, I feel like, you know, even though I work at a company with thousands of people, I feel very connected to making an impact about, you know, what is actually going on with our end customer, you know, being able to speak with those people, being able to create experiences. You know, obviously I have to partner with more people in a big, you know, organization. There's more stakeholders, more churn, more, you know, approvals and stuff like that. But besides that, the culture, the feeling of it is very, very similar to the past few startups that I worked at, because it was so much about growing and learning. And where we are as a company is still, you know, it's different from where we were at a few years ago. And it will continue to change because that's the visionary leadership of our founder. And my CEO, Jensen, he is we are a founder-led company, and he leads the entire company with that passion and that ability to say, like, we are on a growth trajectory all the time. Like, we are not stopping. We're not a steady state bureaucratic organization. We're constantly reinventing it. And we're going to keep doing that because there's so many ways that this technology can be applied to so many different markets, and we're not even close yet. There's so much more that we can do. So I think it's the way that he runs the company and the vision that we have and the technology that powers it that makes it so similar to being at a startup.
That's indeed very surprising, because even the startups which are growing and which, for example,
yes.
turned in the revenue generating mode, when they grow up, they have these huge problems with interaction within the bigger team, especially when it comes to the hierarchy or whatever.
Yes.
And your
yes. Bureaucracy.
Yes, bureaucracy,
yes.
decision making, and then especially when different departments, they kind of crossing each other. For example, with the website, you're responsible for the website, but then IT department comes and says, oh, you forgot to put this button, and tell about, or marketing comes and says, oh, we don't
yes,
like
yes.
So how, you mean that in video you overcame all these challenges, and the construction of the team is different from?
Yes, it's different. I wouldn't say that it's perfect. We do have, every organization has some bureaucracy, but I would say that what we try to do, and especially I feel in my department, we have a lot of, is just a lot of empowerment and the ability to make decisions for yourself and to recommend things. There's always checks and balances. Like, we're in the digital team, and we kind of serve almost like an internal agency. Like, we're our own little small business inside of the company that serves, all the different business units. We go and talk to the gaming team, we go and talk to the data center team, and we say, like, how do you want to do your website? And we have collaboration with them. So it is tricky because there are a lot of stakeholders. But the minute that we kind of empower people to say, like, this person is in charge of this person is in charge of this, they're the expert, they have the say. But ultimately, for us, we have, the decision maker who is the content owner, and they have to kind of ladder up to their own leadership. Whoever's in the data center leadership or the gaming leadership, whatever, they own their content. And if we tried to, kind of dictate to them, say, you have to do it this way, it really has to be a partnership for that to work. And I think that over time, we've had a lot more of just that collaborative atmosphere and way of doing things that's just helped to streamline decision making. And we always focus on, what is the priority right now? If you need to make some quick updates, like, do not let my big project hold you up, but we do need to look at the journey. We do need to do the research. And how do you, prioritize? I think a prioritization methodology is important. No matter what company that you're in, you need to be working on the right things. And for us, we have, within our department, so many requests coming in. People need, to build this and build that, and, launch this and launch that. And we have a mechanism to say, like, all of these things came in, here are the, priority 1, priority 2, and the rest of it is like, we can't work on it. I'm sorry. Because there's too much demand, I would say, and not enough supply. So I think being able to work on the right things means that you have the time and energy to dedicate to those things. And people who are empowered are able to do their best work because of that. I feel like I've been empowered in my job, and it's very good because, I mean, I even saw that, like when I worked at startups, like very, very small companies, it would just be like, you need this person's approval and this person's approval. Like you cannot, you know, think for yourself necessarily. And, you know, situations where like, you know, one department, their voice is not as strong as another department. So, you know, for example, I work directly with customers. I answered the phones and, you know, wrote support content when I was at a startup. And I felt like my entire department, it was like we were providing direct customer feedback, but it's like, how come we're not being listened to? I feel like that's very important. You know, what the feedback coming from the customer is a very important function. And you just need all of those functions to be empowered to provide their input. And if you don't have that, that team or function is weak, then it's like, why are we doing all this work if no one's going to listen to us? And yeah, I think a lot of it is just about empowerment. And there has to be a culture of that like people are hired for a reason. They're there to be listened to. They're not just there because, somebody said we needed a product manager, or somebody said we needed a testing function or a user experience function just to like check a box. Like it has to be empowered. And yeah, if you don't have that, all sorts of bad things can happen, I feel.
That's very interesting what you just touched about empowerment. How do you think, what is the major element in this empowerment that makes you feel such an empowered and not restricted, and not under pressure?
I think it's a cultural thing. Personally, my company, we have sort of these values or tenets as a company, like overall, that Jensen has laid out. And one of the most important ones is intellectual honesty. So from the very top of the company all the way down, you as, whatever expertise that you have the responsibility to be intellectually honest. Like if you're going to, you have to be the one to say, no, it's actually going to take 3 weeks. Like instead of saying, I can get it done, and then you work the weekend and don't tell anybody, like it's more complicated than that. But it's your responsibility to communicate what is actually going on. And that way you have much less miscommunication, and every person who kind of has their expertise is very much empowered to give that expertise. It isn't perfect, I would say, but I think that the culture is very, very important for being able to have people be empowered and not just be like, I'm just here to, write the report and give it to you. It's like, no, I'm the expert in this type of data, and this is what I have to tell you. You can take it or leave it, but I'm giving it to you. And the more that information is put out in the open, the more people are like, oh, right, I can't ignore the facts. Like, I have to take this at face value. Like, I've presented research, and sometimes it's not, very practical. Like, we have an intern on my team who's just joined, and he's doing some in-depth accessibility analysis. And a lot of the colors that we use on our website, our main branding colors, those don't pass the test, like the main way that we've designed our website is like, we need to rethink some of that stuff, and it's uncomfortable. It's going to lead to some, intensive conversations about what colors should we be using, are our fonts too thin, all of this kind of thing. But you have to confront that. And that feedback is sent directly back to the people who designed it. You're in charge, but I'm the one who's telling you that, it's breaking whatever standards that we want to hold ourselves to. So I feel it's a cultural thing at my company. And I've definitely worked at places where that was not the case. It was like, if you're in this team, your opinion matters more. And if you're in this team, your opinion matters less. And yeah, as a leader, you need to empower people, and you need to make sure that people can be honest. There's a whole concept of psychological safety, being able to feel like you can be expressive of your opinion without like feeling like you're going to be punished or, thrown under the bus because you were honest. Like people need to be able to be honest at work, or else like, we're idea people, all of us working in technology, we're hired for our ideas and our thoughts. And if we're not able to express that, then it's a shame for the company. They're not getting enough out of us. They're just here for us to, type on the keyboard and, put out some deliverables, but the true idea is possibly lost.
That is more than true. And are there any special courses or workshops within NVIDIA to learn people how to make real leadership and empowerment, or it just grows organically?
I think a lot of it is organic, and there are some resources. I know that they're trying to kind of, they have a lot of documentation about, what are our values as a company? How do I, empower other people when I move into management, that kind of thing. But I feel like a lot of it is modeled through the way that you work in projects. And that's the thing about empowerment. Like I mentioned, we have an intern who has just started on our team, and very quickly he's leading stuff. He's brand new here, but that's the way that we do things at NVIDIA, is like, it doesn't matter if you are, have X number of years of experience or some degree or whatever. There's so much work to do that it's like, go for it, and people are put in charge of all sorts of things. And as long as you are providing that person with support and feedback and, everything that they need, our belief is that anyone has the potential to do great things and to lead things in whatever way that is right for their skill set and to find the right place for people. I know that in our company, we have a lot of internal transfers, people moving from one department to another. And part of the reason for that is just making sure that everyone is finding their fit. A lot of the conversation is not just about, is this person good at this job, but like, is it the right fit? Should they be on another team? Should they not be working on, X type of thing or with certain people? So it becomes less about performance and more about, is this person in the right place? Or do they need to be in a different place in the company to do the right work? And I feel that people try really hard to find that right fit for people. And if it's not working, it's called out like pretty fast. Like, we need help. Like, this is not working. What needs to change? And it's difficult. It's challenging. I mean, it's certainly much more in certain areas than others, but you have to find that. And I think working on the projects, you immediately become immersed in all of that. And if it's not working, people will like, it's like, how do we fix this? How do we fix this?
Right now,
because it becomes very apparent.
Right now, you are the leader of your team. So you also decide whom to hire in your team, or how to actually compensate or give some awards or whatever, correct?
I'm at the beginning of that. So I do have a person who leads the overall web function of my team. And I'm kind of growing. So I have one person that I'm managing right now, and possibly, who knows, maybe that'll grow in the future. But a lot of, and I talked about this at the Emerge conference, but a lot of what I've been doing is kind of pioneering the need for user experience in our digital function. And a lot of that was, me doing that myself. I was like, here's this study that we need to go and do. And then I would just go and do it and say, like, this was important for, this specific project, but we could be doing 3 or 4, however many studies if we had the bandwidth. And yeah, I feel like a lot of my role has been in just establishing this function up until this point. That's taken a while. We didn't have somebody focused in this role. We didn't have a web strategist person. When I first joined, I mean, most of us joined about 4 years ago. And when I first joined, our website was used to, post information. It was like, let's just put it on the website, like, and a lot of websites function that way. It's like a dumping ground of like information, and it's so hard to find things. Yeah, and honestly, we have such great content, but the biggest challenge for us was being able to find it. I did a bunch of interviews with users in the past few weeks, and they found, I pointed them. I was like, we have a page on robotics. Would you like to see it? And they're like, how cool, I didn't know you guys did that. And that's our challenge, I think, as a company, is taking that great content that we've kind of put out there and organizing it in a way that people can actually find it and actually use it, and that it'll come up in search. And if people see one thing, maybe they'll be recommended another thing or whatnot. And I've kind of been in my past few years just establishing the importance of that and saying, like, this is important. We need a person to be like doing this design work, and there isn't a person doing that right now. There isn't a person testing this with users or working with the stakeholders to say, here's what the feedback is from the users. How do you match up your goals with that content and create something that's a solution? So we have, many people who work on website stuff, but it was a gap. And now I'm kind of at the point where that function is established, but I have way too much work as a person. So, I've kind of built that business, and, many entrepreneurs are in this. So you're kind of like a victim of your own success. You've like drummed up the business, brought in your clients, but now it's like, oh man, how are we going to service all of this? There's not enough people and not enough time. So my department is quickly seeing, and I would say in my entire department, we have a huge amount of demand for digital because of COVID. That has grown like exponentially. We've had people from other teams come into our department because it's like, there's too much digital stuff to do. And I'm only one, function of that. So our team is definitely growing, and I will hopefully be a part of that. It's just, managing all those requests and growth, because up until now, I've only been able to do the most high priority, pressing strategic projects rather than being able to serve every single business unit. It's just been impossible. Me, my boss, the rest of my team, we're very small, we can only do so much. And, every startup is in that situation, right? You only have so many people, you only have so many resources, you have to prioritize, you have to say no to certain things. And it sucks, until you make the case for, it's like, can we get one more person? That would be great. We'd be able to do all this stuff. So yeah, I've been building the case for that, and it's been working out pretty well.
My God, that's really amazing. So this digital department sounds like a startup inside the corporation.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And I'm not sure if my colleagues see it that way, but a lot of what we've been doing is very entrepreneurial. And for me, I've, been a startup person, kind of planned on that being my career. Things went differently, but yeah, I was like, guys, you don't see these parallels. Like, this is happening.
And speaking about startup and prioritizing, that is absolutely true, that prioritizing is the king actually in so many aspects. How do you do it? How do you learn prioritizing yourself within all this mess and hustle around you?
Yes, it has to happen at the right level. Like, I don't do the prioritization. It happens at my department level. Like, as a digital team, we have to say, these are the most important strategic functions. And I'm one part of that. I'm like the website person. But there's, a whole entire development team, web operations team, analytics team, different marketing functions. All of us as a team really have to be together. And I think that's where I've, in at least past when I've worked in startups, that I've seen the failure is that people kind of act like their team or department is like one little island in the world. And it's like, we're doing really important things, but as a larger organization or as a company or as a department, you have to be coordinated, because you're interconnected with all these other people. Like, I can't do my job in the web function. I put together all of this strategy, but then it's like, oh, we don't have the capabilities or functionality to deliver on that. That's a problem. Or else, like, why did I even work on that? I have to coordinate with them. And, in putting together some of my analysis, I have to go to, work with our analytics team, work with our project management team. All of this stuff has to kind of get done and built and measured, and I'm one part of that. And I think that it's so easy to overlook that, because you see yourself as one person, like, I'm the pioneering entrepreneur and I'm doing the things, I'm doing the most important things and nobody else matters. And it's really easy to see that. But it's important that prioritization happens at the right level, and like, that's not me, I need to realize what is not supposed to be owned by me and what is supposed to be owned by me. And if my department or, kind of larger company, they know what the priorities of the business are, then all I have to do is just inherit those and say, like, well, these are the 3 important things for this quarter. And as long as I get those things done, maybe I'll have time for the 4th thing, but I have to get the 3 things done, like that. Everybody's working on those 3 things. And it's amazing. I would say that as a company, we really pivot very quickly. A big priority will come up for us as a company, and suddenly, like, teams are reorganizing around that priority, and you're just kind of pulled into that, because it's like, this is the important launch, this is the, whatever it is, that initiative, next product, next architecture. The company really rallies around that, and we see prioritization as like, this is the guiding force for our department, but also for the company overall. And it was not like that when I first started. We did not have a prioritization function in the digital team. And we ended up working on all sorts of non-strategic things. It's like, oh yeah, people are working weekends for something that gets, 1,000 hits a year. Like, why are we doing this, And if you calculated that, I mean, if I was working in an external agency, you would bill people for that. It's like, this took this many hours from this many people, and it's going to cost you thousands of dollars, and people would never do it. But because we're all in-house, we're part of the company, that cost is never, we're just employees. People never really think about that cost. But it's so much waste because you don't prioritize. You don't say what's important and what's not important. And you just kind of take whoever is the loudest voice or angriest, or whoever talked to your manager and said it had to get done, it just becomes political. There's so many ways.
We make these videos in order to dilute geographical and administrative borders and to help you get closer to international investors, venture capitalists, market experts, and startup hubs, irrespective of what country or part of the world you are based in. And we need your support. If you like this video, please don't forget to put like button, to subscribe to our channel, and if you find it useful, I will appreciate if you share it with your teammates, co-founders, or social media networks. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.
Can you give just few advice for startup founders on what did you learn how to prioritize?
Yeah, and I would say, because it doesn't happen on my team, I would kind of speak a little bit loosely on this, but I would say that prioritization needs to have goals attached to it. I mean, you really, like, everything that we work on that's high priority, it doesn't always have to be a revenue goal. Sometimes, like, one of our biggest priorities right now is an internal project that has to do a lot with, technical foundation, reduction of technical debt. And that can be a high priority for a while. It just has to be something that's very important and has a strategic business goal in mind. So a lot of our goals have to do with, we're Nvidia. We have so many projects to launch, so many products that we support. For example, we have a cloud gaming subscription service. So we own a lot of the e-commerce portion as a department, and we have to build and maintain that over time. So in many ways, that is like a product that we own and we have to invest in. But there are important launches that come up. We're launching this or that SKU, we're launching this or that product. We have to support, content launches. But everything has to be tied to a goal. Like, are you selling something? Is this for, internal purposes? Is this a process-oriented project? Like, unless it has a goal, if it's just somebody's like favorite thing and they think it's important, then it's not enough. You have to have some rigor in your process. And because people will question it, like whoever's working on it is going to be like, why am I working on this? This is dumb. And is it just because somebody like had a weird conversation on the weekend and said, I need this? And then, they shook hands in the dark and decided, or is it actually important and should be worked on and is important to the company? Yeah. I mean, everyone needs that for motivation. You're not going to get good results from people if people don't know why they're doing it. So
that's a
form of prioritization, but also motivating your team. It just goes hand in hand.
That's a great example, and that's a great advice, because many startups, entrepreneurs, they forget about why are they doing something. They go in a rush, they develop products, they develop something, and they just simply forget to question why. There is a very good book, something about why, I don't, I forgot the author, but guys, I will put
Simon Sinek, maybe?
Yes, Simon Sinek.
Yes.
And the title of the book?
Is it What Before Why? Or Why Before What? I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
Ask yourself why. Yes. So guys, we will put it in the description, the link to the book. And this is really good book to refer to.
I totally agree.
You've read it?
I totally agree. I have not, but I've seen his talk on YouTube. Very popular.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, it's on my reading list.
In TEDx, yes?
Yes. Yes, in TEDx. Very, very good. Yeah, I mean, it's very important to realize, it's like, am I doing this because, I'm helping my friend, or there's so many reasons, right? So many distractions in the world. And it's very tempting. A lot of times I feel in technology that we're distracted by like, new, cool, shiny things. Like we need to build this, we need to get this technology, we need to install this tool. And it's like, shiny, distracting things that just kind of take us off the path. There's so much of that. I feel it's like, oh yeah, let's just, create this widget and then we can delete all of our website content and then people can just press the buttons and it'll give them what product to buy. And it's like, it's not that simple, People need a website. People need information. They're not just going to like click through a tool and then buy something. It's just very, unrealistic, I would say.
Yeah. You also mentioned that you are doing yourself interviews with your customers for customer development. So how are you organizing it?
Yeah.
Because I noticed that in many startups, even if they have just 100 or 500 users, they try to automate CastDev in making some surveys or online questionnaires or whatever, but really
surveys.
So important.
Yes, there is nothing that replaces an interview. I mean, really, and it doesn't have to even be that complicated. It's like I get this person on a call, I, open up my website and I say, what do you think? Like talk me through it. What's your, and I ask them very simple questions like, what's your role? What's your relationship with our company? And for us, a lot of the things I found, I might have mentioned this earlier, but just people know us in one way. Like they see us as like, oh yeah, you guys are the gaming company, right? You do gaming. And I was like, all right, like we do gaming, but we also do like, 50 other things. And a lot of the people that I talk to in these interviews, they used to be gamers when they were kids, and now they're, IT managers, they're data scientists, they're genomic specialists, and they have professional uses for our company that they never thought us, that we would serve for them. And that was, the really important part for us was just realizing like people know who we are, but they don't know what we do. But you don't know what, that message is going to be for your company. You might talk to users and they're going to be like, well, your name is weird. So I think your name is weird and you should pick a different name. It's distracting. And it's like, wow, like if, you talk to 4 or 5 people and they all say the same thing, it's like, they can't get over the fact that our name is weird and they're not even looking at anything because they think our name is weird or whatever, right? It could be anything. It could be like, well, that blue on your website is very distracting and I can't read anything. Or, why do you keep using this word? That's super confusing. And you're kind of able to get that, other perspective of how people think through your website as they talk through it. And that's the most important thing I would say for customer feedback is you have to be a good listener. If you go in and you think like, oh yeah, everyone loves Nvidia, everyone thinks we're great. So all I have to do is go and interview someone to check a box and say, oh yeah, the user said that we're great and no feedback, done, call it a day. They liked our prototype, we can go and build it now. Like, no, you have to go there very objectively and say like, please find the problems. Like, is anything confusing to you? What's weird? What stands out to you? What do you like the most? Because a lot of times things are working and you don't want to get rid of it. It's like, oh yeah, we need to go and redo everything. It's like, no, a lot of people like that stuff. So interviews really give you a deep understanding because I feel that with things like surveys, they can only go so deep because you're designing the questions. A lot of time with the interview, they're leading the process and saying like, I like this, I don't like that, and you can kind of just be the fly on the wall, listening to them, poking them with questions like Socrates and understanding like, where are they going with this? Is this even interesting to them? Or, it helps you rethink things a lot. I mean, we've done a lot of pivots and changes because of this. And now we're able to go back to the content teams and go like, all right, these 3 teams, all of them address the same customer, but one person's website is over here, another person's information is over there, and it's all the same customer. We need to bring it together into one story. And we would never be having.
Oh, something.
Yeah, that's my talk about interview.
Okay. Speaking about customer interview, they spend quite a lot of time answering your question. Do you promise them some kind of remuneration or whatever?
Yes, yes. And there's great tools for this. I use a wonderful website called userinterviews.com.
Mm-hmm.
I would highly recommend it. But there are many other tools for recruitment. Do your homework because, some are very expensive and others are kind of medium and others you can get away with it. Sometimes we recruit from our own lists and you kind of know, these people will be somewhat familiar with our company, but it does save costs. So sometimes when we need to run studies, it's like, all right, can we just recruit from our panel? We have an email list, or can we just pull from that of existing contacts? And that's a good start. But no matter what, you should compensate people for their time, because in my experience, when you don't do that, they just don't show up. Like, they don't answer your emails. They have no incentive to show up. They may or may not give good responses. If you're able to pay people, even a small amount, $20, $30, send them swag, something, promise them something. It guarantees that you have their attention. It's the same thing. Many of us went to college, they, had meetings and they would always have free pizza. It's like people show up because of the free pizza, but then they stay because of whatever important meeting you're trying to have. So that was my experience as a student anyway. People would always have free pizza. And I use the same analogy for interviews. You need to incentivize people. And many websites like user interviews, they have suggestions for how much to give, if the person is more senior versus like, or if the conversation is more short, you pay people less. But yeah, there are great tools out there. User interviews is probably my favorite so far out of trial and error. But yeah, just however you can do it, use a Zoom call, find somebody, just find a way, make sure that and there's, I would say, 2 types of feedback. One is people who you really think are in that persona, your ideal customer, ideal prospective customer or current customer. And then there's pure like usability feedback. Like any person can tell you that the color is weird and they can't read it. So sometimes testing your product or your website for pure usability is a good first start. Like you can ask your cousin, give me feedback and tell me if it's weird. And that's a really cheap and inexpensive way to get feedback, because if you talk to 2 or 3 people, they will point out all of the same problems, and it's a trend. And it's an easy first round. And then you can do maybe a second round with, the more expensive, how do I find my, IT person, data scientist, whoever that intended customer is, and recruit them and have a formal recorded session and all of that. So yeah, find inexpensive ways to at least start, because then you'll realize how valuable it is.
Awesome. And speaking about questions, because they are super important, who makes questions? You yourself before talking with customers, or you have some special person, or you use special tools?
Yeah, there's definitely a skill set for this. I mean, I would say I'm, a budding researcher. I'm trying to get better. I'm a generalist, so this is not my specialty. I have designed questions, but a lot of the times I kind of set out with the goal in mind of like, I want to show them a design and then I want to see them react to it. So I kind of just give them prompted questions like, do you think something is confusing? Or do you think something is interesting? Or out of these 5 things, what is most interesting to you? I mean, on the web, there's a whole just variety of questions. And I would say the most important thing is picking, 2, 3 questions for a given half hour or whatever, and just seeing where people go with it. And then you're just responding to them. You're going like, wait, why were you confused there? Or I saw that you hesitated there. Why did you do that? And there's great resources online for this. I mean, user interviews is they have so many great resources for people who are researchers, as well as people who have to do research because they're not a full-time researcher. I mean, most companies, even at my company, we have very few full-time researchers. I have the benefit that there's a couple of market researchers who are really good. They design things like surveys and things like that. And I've gotten their help with some things here and there, especially, recruiting the right type of people and things like that. But honestly, I think you'll learn through trying and through a few different Googles of like how to run a user interview. Like, it's not rocket science. I think it's more just practice and being able to be a good listener and being able to let the other person talk and not put words in their mouth. That's like a life skill, right? Like for conversation. So yeah, I would say there's a lot of resources out there, but just keep practicing. Like, you'll get better at it.
Okay, good. So speaking about growing and learning, you mentioned this about Nvidia. Can you please differentiate or just specify what did you learn when you joined Nvidia and during these years about how to grow a unicorn or how to build a beautifully developing business?
Yes. Yeah, it's been such an interesting experience. And I guess the most important thing that I've learned is to not limit myself by what I think I can do. Like for myself, I always have seen myself as, you know, a writer, a storyteller, a content creator. With NVIDIA, I've also become to see myself as a designer, a marketer, a communicator, a researcher, a leader, you know, and by not going into my job and saying like, this is my job, this is what I'm here to do, but you know, I'm here to kind of use my skills to solve the right problem. I was able to discover a lot of my gifts and how I can use those at work. So a lot of how I approach writing is how do I structure information, and the concept of structuring can apply to writing, it can apply to design, it can apply to process, it can apply to all sorts of different things, but that's just how my mind works. And I had to kind of unlock, you know, I'm a writer, I'm a content strategist, you know, type of mindset with, you know, I can be a user experience person. I'm the person who is, you know, taking this information and figuring out how to present it online. I'm getting people's feedback on it. I'm figuring out how they think about how to structure information and how we can better structure information. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is just about having a broad mindset. And NVIDIA has definitely given that to me because it has challenged me to wear so many different hats. And working at any startup, I think will do this. But in my department specifically, we had so many, you know, just very tricky challenges working with people. And the reason why I guess I've liked working at such a big company is also just the breadth of different types of technologies that we talk about and deal with across B2B, across B2C, you know, even internal projects. I've loved working on the diversity of that. I came in very focused on the gaming aspect. I am a gamer, and that's kind of one of the reasons why they brought me in. It's like, we need a gaming person. The team is you know, doesn't have enough gamer knowledge or whatnot. But very quickly, I found myself working on the B2B space as well and adding my input there. So yeah, just like, don't limit yourself. I think if you're in a entrepreneurial environment, you will have to stretch and grow, like by necessity. It's just, there's too much work to do. So it's just impossible not to, but you should embrace that and see yourself as more than just maybe what you've been doing in the past 5 years or something like that.
Do not limit yourself. I really love this approach and this lesson you've learned out of there. Speaking about limitless, maybe this question is not really on the topic of this interview, but you remember these limitless pills which made you Superman. I heard, well, and there were a lot of discussions that in Silicon Valley, startup entrepreneurs and employees in big corporations like Nvidia, Google, etc., they take these nootropic pills in order to become smarter, in order to become more creative. Do you also have this experience, or do you eat together with your team a lot of vitamins and nootropics together?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like bonding with your team and stuff like that, gosh, COVID has changed everything. we used to do so much. I mean, we, you know, just being in the office, I think does this. And I really feel for the few people who have had to join my department remote only, like they joined and they've never met anyone in person. It's just like the craziest thing. I feel for them, but I do feel like we've lost something a little bit because of COVID. I mean, I personally work much more productively, you know, remotely when I don't have a lot of distractions in the office. But there's something missing with all of us remote, I feel. And even going into the office 1 or 2 days a week, I think we'd be able to get that back. So Yeah, I think having meals with people, having informal conversations, just going and getting, I don't drink coffee, but, going to get, a snack or tea or whatever together, that's where you have a lot of the like deeper conversations about, what's going on. And I feel like I've discovered a lot of awesome gifts that other people in my team have had. Like, I'm not a very process focused person, but I have a very wonderful process focused lady on my team who is now doing all sorts of great things. And I was like, you go for it. I am terrible at that stuff. And as a team, we really discovered that she had a gift for this. She was working in a completely different team before, and she joined our team, and we really just got to know her. And now she's like awesome. She's doing so much great work. And I think a lot of that happened just because, we were able to eat lunch with each other, and get to know each other and find out about her career and all of that stuff. And yeah, I think so much of that happens in person. So I miss it for sure. I miss that aspect of my job.
I'm sure that you will get it back very soon, because hopefully we will overcome this. At least in Europe, I promise you, in Europe, it is already very different. Everyone is back to the offices and everyone can meet.
Oh gosh.
So I'm sure that in US and Silicon Valley, you will have it back very soon. And the last—
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, it will, Kavita. Just wait a little bit.
I know, right?
So the question is about working with startups from Nvidia. I know that you are not the person who is responsible for work with startups. You have special department who is working with startups, yes?
Yes, we do. We have an entire inception program. I think it's actually an accelerator as well. So we do a lot of work to empower startups. I would highly recommend any startups who kind of have that technology alignment with us. We do a lot of great work to mentor, coach, provide support and resources for startups. I mean, get some hardware, we have great programs for that.
Do you also, being the part of other team, do you also participate in these mentoring sessions or whatever?
Not so much. I would say a lot of the mentoring has to do with our specific technology, and a lot of the businesses that we mentor, they leverage GPU technology and other, we have a whole just dozens and dozens of developer resources, SDKs, all sorts of stuff. And we are basically helping to kind of, I mean, in a lot of sense, Jensen talks about us as kind of empowering the Da Vinci's of our time. That's how he likes to talk about it. And yeah, like the people with that, deep technical expertise, because we want to help them and provide them with capabilities because they're solving the world's great problems. And yeah, I don't personally help with that, but we have so many experts in so many different fields, like entire departments dedicated to advancing, deep learning research, high performance computing research. We have an entire research org of our own. I've worked on website projects for these folks. How do we tell their story? How do we make these resources available? Stuff like that. But yeah, they're doing great work. There's just so many experts in our company who are empowering startups and helping to fund them, helping to accelerate them, just doing awesome work with them.
I think we can put in the description of this interview the link to the NVIDIA startup channel or whatever you have, the webpage.
Yes.
And everyone.
Yes, I'll definitely send that to you. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, we have a great inception program.
And can you give, please, one at the last one or maybe few advice for startup founders how to build a web design or user experience in a way? Well, just few small maybe details. Not, of course, you will be not able to deliver all the experience.
Yeah.
How to avoid the typical mistakes in building the design of your web product?
Yes. I would say the most important thing to do is to not do too much. Like with websites, less is more, because everything that you create, I mean, it's just like a product. Everything that you create, you have to maintain it. And your website should be as small as you can possibly get it. And it will still be too big because content and information naturally grows. And if you, end up using your website, as many people do, as a pre-sales tool, you need to really focus it on everything that helps you achieve pre-sales, and don't do like too much, because it should not be your focus as a company. Even with our company, I mean, we are a very large company and we spend a lot of resources on our website, but we're saying no all the time. We're like, we're not going to build this. We can't do that. Come back when you have a better plan. So many things that just end up taking so much time and resources and end up not being worth it. So, and any website professional will tell you this, like, please say no to whatever you can. Like, if you have, an easy way to say no, just do it. Because the simpler and easier your website is, that will make it easier to use as well. Smaller websites are better, they have better user experience, and they tend to perform better because you can really take that, smaller set of information and really optimize it and make it work for you. Like, why do you have to have, a page for every single customer story or whatnot? You may or may not need to. Maybe you just need to pick the first 5, the most important 5, and just focus on that and make them the best customer stories ever. So yeah, my first advice is just less is more from any website professional. People will probably try to, every website project starts with a sense of like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? It's like, it's not cool. It's way too much work. So yeah, that's my first piece of advice. The second piece of advice is just testing feedback. This should be along with your overall product experience. I mean, everything that you do should get customer feedback, and your website, I feel, is an important part of this, because in many ways, a lot of it is pre-sales. A lot of it can be post-sales as well. You have, support information, resources, depending on what kind of business you are. But yeah, a lot of people's main function of their website is to help people learn about their company, to help people know what their business is. So you need to make sure that those very important messages that you're saying are a good first impression, because that's what your website is. It's a first impression in many ways to your company. So yeah, keep testing. Just find a way, no matter what. Always test things. Test your product and test your website. So yeah, those are the 2 things I would say. Possibly a third one is just, make sure that your website reflects who you are as a company, and make sure that, you do spend an effort on it. People do actually care about it. And in today's standard of digital, like, you need to make an investment in it. So while I said keep it small, you need to do a good job on your website. That doesn't mean it has to be big. That doesn't mean it has to be complicated. It just has to be thoughtfully created. Don't just slap something on there and call it a day. Oh, I checkbox, I did my website. It's very important marketing tool for you. So among other things. So yeah, that would be the piece of feedback I have.
So just to summarize, the pieces of advice from Kavita Singh is less and is more, definitely. Then collect your customers' feedback. And of course, your website deserves attention. So don't underestimate its value and invest time and resources on it. Kavita, thank you so much. You are amazing, wonderful, and inspiring person. And I wish we had more female entrepreneurs in tech field like you are to inspire others to go your way. Thanks a lot. And I wish you a great day, and hope that soon you will again meet your colleagues and hang up together.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much. It was really nice talking with you, and I really love everything that you guys are doing at InnMind. Awesome job. I appreciate being a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.